The conference room on Diplomatic Station Meridian 7 was cold. Taehyun adjusted his collar and glanced at his daughter. Jia sat beside him, swinging her legs under the chair. She was only 6 years old, but she understood this meeting was important. Across the table sat Ambassador Vrex and his delegation. The Qualith looked like giant insects with multiple eyes that gleamed under the station's lights. Their exoskeletons clicked softly when they moved. Taehyun had met many alien species in his career as Earth's ambassador, but the Qualith still made him uncomfortable. "We appreciate your offer of trade," Taehyun said carefully. "Earth is eager to establish peaceful relations with the Qualith Empire." Vrex's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Your species is young, Ambassador. You have much to learn about the galaxy." His translator device made his voice sound cold and mechanical, "but we see potential in humanity. That is why we bring gifts." Captain Haiwan, standing behind Taehyun, shifted her weight. Her hand rested near her weapon. She did not trust the Qualith, and she made no effort to hide it. "Gifts?" Taehyun asked. "For the child," Vrex said. His compound eyes focused on Jia. "Human young are fragile. They need companions." 2 Qualith guards entered the room. Between them walked a creature unlike anything Taehyun had seen before. It moved on 6 legs, each step perfectly silent despite its size. The creature was as large as a big dog, with a sleek body covered in scales that shimmered like crystal. Its head was elegant, with 2 large eyes that seemed to hold intelligence. A long tail swayed behind it, tipped with what looked like smooth gemstones. Jia gasped with delight. "Papa, look!" "What is it?" Taehyun asked, keeping his voice steady. "A Rixthor," Vrex said. "A domesticated animal from our worlds, harmless. We keep them as pets for our own young, though most of us have outgrown such sentiment." He waved a limb dismissively. "Your daughter may have it. Consider it a symbol of our friendship." The creature approached Jia slowly. Its crystalline scales caught the light, creating small rainbows on the walls. When it reached her chair, it sat down and looked up at her with those intelligent eyes. "Can I touch it, Papa?" Jia whispered. Taehyun looked at Captain Haiwan. She pulled out a scanner and ran it over the creature. After a moment, she nodded. "Scans show no weapons, no toxins, no aggressive biology. It appears safe." "You may pet it," Taehyun told his daughter. Jia reached out her small hand. The Rixthor leaned its head forward, letting her touch the scales on its forehead. They were warm and smooth. The creature made a sound like distant thunder, deep and rumbling. Jia giggled. "It's purring," she said. "The Rixthor bonds quickly with young ones," Vrex explained.
"It will follow your daughter everywhere."
"Keep her company, nothing more. They're quite useless, actually, but children seem to enjoy them." Something in Vrex's tone bothered Taehyun, but he could not identify what. He looked at the creature again. It had placed its head in Jia's lap, and she was stroking its scales gently. The creature's eyes were half closed in contentment. "This is very generous," Taehyun said, "but we cannot accept such a valuable gift without—" "It is not valuable," Vrex interrupted. "We have thousands. They breed easily and serve no purpose beyond decoration. Please take it. If it pleases the child, then our gift has meaning." Taehyun studied the Qualith ambassador. There was something in those compound eyes, something he could not read. But Jia was already in love with the creature, and refusing might insult their hosts. "Thank you," Taehyun said finally. "My daughter will treasure your gift. What will you name it?" Vrex asked Jia directly. Jia thought for a moment, her hand still resting on the creature's head. "Bomb," she said. "Like spring. Because bomb is pretty like flowers." The Rixthor's scales seemed to brighten at the sound of its new name. It made that purring sound again, louder this time. Later that day, back in their quarters on the station, Captain Haiwan ran more detailed scans. Taehyun watched Bomb follow Jia around the room. The creature moved with surprising grace, always staying within a few feet of the little girl. "The scans still show nothing dangerous," Haiwan reported. "But Ambassador, I do not like this." "Why?" Taehyun asked, the way Vrex spoke about it, calling it useless, worthless. "Why give us something they consider trash?" Haiwan crossed her arms. "And did you see how the other Qualith looked at it? They seemed—" "I do not know." "Surprised? Nervous?" "Perhaps they are unused to seeing humans accept their gifts," Taehyun suggested, but he shared her concerns. "I will keep monitoring Bomb," Haiwan said. "And I recommend we do not take it to Earth until we know more." "Agreed. We will keep it here on the station for now." Jia was sitting on the floor and Bomb had curled around her like a living blanket. Its tail wrapped loosely around her waist and its head rested beside hers. The creature's eyes were open, watching the room with alert awareness. "Papa, Bomb is warm," Jia said happily. "And soft. Can Bomb sleep in my room?" Taehyun wanted to say no. He wanted to put the creature in a containment unit until they understood it better. But his daughter had lost her mother 2 years ago. She had been so sad, so quiet. This was the first time in months he had seen her truly smile. "Yes," he said. "Bomb can stay with you." That night, Taehyun checked on Jia before going to bed. She was asleep, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Bomb lay on the floor beside her bed, but its head was raised. Those intelligent eyes tracked Taehyun's movement across the room. "Take care of her," Taehyun whispered, feeling foolish for talking to an animal. Bomb's scales shifted color slightly, from blue to a soft purple. The creature made a quiet sound, almost like acknowledgement. Then it settled its head on its paws, but its eyes remained open, watching the door. Taehyun returned to his own room, but sleep did not come easily. He kept thinking about Vrex's words. "Useless," the Qualith had said. "They serve no purpose." But Bomb's eyes had not looked useless. They had looked aware, alert, almost like a soldier standing guard. Taehyun told himself he was being paranoid. The creature was just a pet, nothing more. The Qualith had been generous, and he should be grateful. Still, as he finally drifted to sleep, a small voice in his mind whispered a warning. The Qualith had given them Bomb too easily. They had dismissed it too quickly. And in all his years of diplomacy, Taehyun had learned one important lesson. When someone insisted a gift was worthless, it usually meant the opposite. In the next room, Bomb continued its silent watch. Its crystalline scales glowed faintly in the darkness, and its 6 legs were positioned perfectly to spring into action. The Rixthor did not sleep. It had a duty now, an ancient purpose that had awakened the moment the small human child had touched its head and spoken its name. The Qualith had called it just a pet. They had been wrong about many things, but this was their greatest mistake. Bomb was not a pet. Not anymore. The old bond had stirred, the warrior oath that slept in its blood, and now nothing in the galaxy would harm Jia while Bomb still lived. 3 months had passed since the Qualith gave Bomb to Jia. The human colony ship New Dawn was now halfway to its destination, a new world that would become humanity's newest home. Taehyun had accepted a position as colonial administrator, bringing his daughter with him to start a new life far from the diplomatic stations and their painful memories. Bomb had come with them, of course. Jia would not go anywhere without her companion. Dongwu, the ship's xenobiologist, was fascinated by the Rixthor. He had spent weeks observing Bomb, taking notes, running gentle tests. The creature allowed all of it with patient tolerance, but only when Jia was present and comfortable. "Ambassador Taehyun, I need to show you something," Dongwu said one afternoon. They stood in the ship's small laboratory, while Jia attended her lessons with teacher Sujin down the hall. Bomb waited outside the classroom door, as it always did. Taehyun looked at the screens displaying Dongwu's research. "What am I looking at?" "Bomb's behavior patterns," Dongwu explained. He pulled up a 3-dimensional map of the ship. "Watch." He pressed a button and colored lines appeared, showing Bomb's movements over the past month. The pattern was striking. Bomb never wandered randomly. Every path the creature took positioned it between Jia and anything potentially dangerous. The engine room, the airlocks, the maintenance shafts, Bomb always kept Jia on the safe side. "It could be coincidence," Taehyun said. But he did not believe his own words. "There's more." Dongwu switched screens. "I've been monitoring Bomb's scales. They change color based on the environment." He showed video footage from different situations. Blue when everything is calm, green when Jia is playing, purple when she sleeps. But look at this. The video showed Bomb walking with Jia through a corridor. A maintenance panel had swung open unexpectedly, making a loud bang. For just a moment, Bomb's scales flashed deep crimson. The creature had positioned itself between Jia and the noise. Its body lowered into a stance that looked almost aggressive. The panel was not dangerous, Dongwu said quietly. "Just loud." But Bomb responded as if protecting Jia from a threat. Taehyun felt cold. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that Bomb is not just a pet." Dongwu pulled up another file. "I accessed the Qualith database. Most of it is restricted, but I found historical records. Old ones." He paused. "Ambassador, the Rixthor were not always pets. 5,000 years ago they were warriors, elite guardians bred and trained by the Qualith Empire. What happened to them? Genetic modification. The Qualith changed them over centuries, made them docile. They wanted decorative animals, not warriors, but Dongwu pulled up an ancient text, translated into human language. The old records mention something called the bond of protection. When a Rixthor chooses someone to guard, truly chooses them, the warrior instincts can return. The Qualith thought they had bred this out. They thought the bond was gone forever. Taehyun thought about the way Bomb had looked at Jia that first day, the way it followed her everywhere, the way it watched doorways and corners with those intelligent eyes. Does Bomb know? Taehyun asked. That it was once a warrior? I do not think it is about knowing, Dongwu said. I think it is about being. Somewhere deep in Bomb's genetics the warrior still exists, and Jia woke it up. That evening Taehyun watched Jia play with Bomb in their quarters. She threw a soft ball and Bomb caught it gently in its mouth, bringing it back to her. The creature played carefully, never too rough, always aware of the child's small size. Papa, Bomb is so smart, Jia said. Today in class Sujin said Bomb could not come inside. But Bomb sat outside and did not move the whole time. Not even when Kyung-soo walked by with those loud tools. Head engineer Kyung-soo did not trust Bomb. He had made his opinion clear. Alien animals should be in cargo, not living with humans. Taehyun had argued with him several times about it. Bomb is very loyal to you, Taehyun said, watching the creature. As if sensing his attention, Bomb looked at him. Those eyes held awareness that no simple pet should have. The next day there was an emergency drill. Not a real emergency, just practice. The alarm sounded throughout the ship, and everyone moved to their designated safe zones. Taehyun held Jia's hand as they walked quickly through the corridors. Bomb moved beside them, closer than usual. Then Taehyun saw it. Bomb's scales were changing color, shifting from blue to orange to deep dark red. The creature's body lowered closer to the ground. Its 6 legs spread wider, and suddenly Taehyun could see something he had never noticed before. Thin lines along Bomb's legs like seams in the scales. Dongwu, Taehyun called. The xenobiologist was nearby, also heading to the safe zone. Look at Bomb. Dongwu stopped. His eyes widened. The scales are opening. As they watched, the seams along Bomb's legs separated slightly. Beneath the smooth crystal exterior, something else gleamed. Something sharp and metallic. Blade-like appendages retracted and hidden, but now visible as Bomb responded to what it perceived as danger. The drill alarm stopped. The all-clear sounded. Slowly, Bomb's scales returned to blue. The seams closed. The creature looked like a harmless pet again, but everyone who had seen the transformation stood in shocked silence. Papa? Jia asked, confused by the adult's reactions. Is Bomb okay? Bomb is fine, sweet one, Taehyun said, but his mind was racing. Blades. The creature had blades hidden in its body, weapons that the Qualith had never mentioned. Captain Haiwan arrived quickly after hearing the report. She found Taehyun in the laboratory with Dongwu, reviewing the security footage of the drill. We need to put that thing in containment, Haiwan said firmly. It is armed, dangerous. It protected Jia, Taehyun said. During the drill, it positioned itself between her and the perceived threat. It did not attack anyone. It simply prepared to defend. Today it prepared. Tomorrow it might act. Hee-won crossed her arms. Ambassador, I understand your daughter loves it, but we have 300 people on this ship. If that creature decides we are threats, it won't, Dongwu interrupted. I have been studying the bond. The Rixthor does not see us as threats unless we threaten Jia. It has had hundreds of opportunities to harm people, but it never has. Not even when Kyung-soo was rude to it last week. Hee-won was not convinced. What if the Qualith knew? What if they gave it to us knowing it was dangerous? I do not think they knew, Dongwu said slowly. I think they truly believed the Rixthor were just pets. They have been domesticated for thousands of years, but they underestimated 2 things. The depth of the ancient bond and the effect of genuine love. Love? Hye-won raised an eyebrow. Jia does not treat Bomb like a pet, Dongwu explained. She treats it like family. Like a friend. The Qualith stopped doing that millennia ago. They forgot what the Rixthor were created for. Not to serve, but to protect those they loved. Jia reminded Bomb what it was meant to be. That night, Taehyun sat on the edge of Jia's bed. She was already asleep, her small hand resting on Bomb's head. The creature lay beside her bed, alert and watchful as always. "I know what you are now," Taehyun whispered to Bomb. "I know you are more than they told us, but I also know you love her. I see it in the way you watch her, protect her, comfort her when she cries." Bomb's eyes met his. The scales shifted to a soft purple, the color that meant peace and rest. "I lost her mother," Taehyun continued, his voice breaking slightly. "I cannot lose Jia too, so I am asking you, warrior to warrior, keep her safe, no matter what comes." Bomb made a sound, low and rumbling, that was not quite a purr. It was deeper, older, a sound from ancient times when Rixthor had stood beside Qualith soldiers in battle, a sound that meant, "I swear it. I will guard her until my last breath." Taehyun nodded, understanding somehow. He returned to his room, but he did not report the creature's hidden weapons to Fleet Command. Dongwoo and Heewon agreed to keep silent. If the galaxy thought Bomb was just a pet, that was safer for everyone. But Taehyun now knew the truth. Sleeping beside his daughter, looking like a harmless crystal-scaled animal, was something ancient and powerful, a warrior who had found its purpose again. The Qualith had called it just a pet. They had been very, very wrong. The attack came without warning. One moment, the New Dawn was traveling peacefully through the frontier belt. The next moment, alarms screamed throughout the ship. "Red lights flashed in every corridor. Pirates!" someone shouted over the intercom. "Korvath raiders. All security personnel to stations. All civilians to safe rooms." Taehyun grabbed Jia's hand. They were in the common area when the attack began. Bomb was beside them instantly, its scales already shifting to deep crimson. "Papa, I'm scared," Jia cried. "Stay with me," Taehyun said, pulling her toward the nearest safe room. Around them, people were running, screaming. The ship shuddered as weapons fire hit the hull. Captain Haiwan's voice came through the speakers. "Hull breach on Deck 3. They're boarding. Security teams engage the enemy. Everyone else get to safety now." Taehyun ran faster, but he could hear weapons fire getting closer. The Korvath pirates were spreading through the ship quickly. Too quickly. The New Dawn was a colony ship, not a military vessel. They had security, but not enough to fight a full raiding party. They reached the safe room. Other families were crowding inside, pushing, panicking. Taehyun got Jia through the door, but before he could follow, an explosion rocked the corridor. The blast door began to close automatically, separating the safe room from the hallway. "Papa!" Jia screamed, reaching for him through the closing door. "I'll find another way," Taehyun shouted. "Stay inside!" "Won't protect her." The door sealed shut. Taehyun was trapped outside with a dozen other people who had not made it in time. Bomb was inside with Jia and about 30 other civilians. Through the door's small window, Taehyun could see his daughter crying. Bomb stood in front of her, perfectly still. Its scales were no longer crimson. They were black now, darker than space. Taehyun had never seen that color before. "Move, move." A security officer named Han Sol ran past, firing at something around the corner. "Pirates coming through. Get back." But there was nowhere to go. The corridor had only two directions: toward the safe room's sealed door, or toward the approaching pirates. Taehyun heard them before he saw them. Heavy footsteps. Harsh laughter. The Korvath were reptilian creatures, big and strong, with scales like armor and weapons designed to tear through ship hulls. 5 of them rounded the corner. When they saw the civilians trapped in the corridor, they grinned with too many teeth. "Hostages," one of them said in rough human language. "Good. Worth much money." Han Sol fired his weapon, but a Korvath shot it from his hands. The young security officer went down, stunned but alive. The pirates advanced on the civilians. "Please," Taehyun said, putting himself in front of the others. "We have children, families, whatever you want." "We want ship," the lead pirate interrupted. His name was Varketh, according to the designation on his armor. "We want cargo. We want hostages for trade. You are now property of Korvath clan." One of the pirates noticed the safe room door. He walked over and looked through the window. More inside. Small ones. Very valuable. "That door won't open," Varketh said. "Blast it." "No!" Taehyun lunged forward, but a pirate struck him down with the butt of a weapon. He tasted blood. The pirate placed explosives on the safe room door. Through the window, Taehyun could see Jia screaming, unable to hear him through the sealed barrier. Other children were crying. Adults tried to shield them, but there was no escape. "Wait," one of the pirates said, peering through the window. "What is that creature?" Varketh looked. He saw Bomb standing in front of Jia. Just pet. Human pet. Small and useless, the pirate laughed. Humans bring pets to space. Weak and foolish. They activated the explosive. The blast tore through the door's mechanism. Safety protocols failed. The door slid open with a hiss of depressurizing air. The pirates rushed inside, weapons ready. Civilians screamed and backed away. Varketh strode to the center of the room, looking at his prizes. So many hostages, so much profit. You, human female, he said, pointing at Sujin, Jia's teacher. You come with— He stopped. Something was wrong. The civilians were not looking at him anymore. They were looking at something else. Something behind him. Varketh turned. The pet, the small crystal creature, was still standing in front of the human child. But something had changed. The creature was bigger now. Much bigger. Its 6 legs spread wide and its body seemed to have grown, expanded. Those pretty crystal scales were opening, unfolding like armor plates. Beneath them, Varketh saw metal, blades, weapons that gleamed in the emergency lighting. What? Varketh began. Bomb made a sound. It was not a purr. It was not anything Varketh had ever heard before. It was a war cry, ancient and terrible. A sound from forgotten ages when Rixthor had protected their chosen ones in 1,000 battles. The sound resonated through the safe room, through the corridor, through the ship itself. It was the sound of a warrior's oath being fulfilled. Then Bomb moved. Varketh had fought in dozens of raids. He was strong, fast, experienced. But he had never seen anything move like the Rixthor. One moment the creature was still. The next moment it was everywhere. A blade flashed. A pirate screamed. His weapon clattered to the floor, severed cleanly in half. Another pirate fired, but Bomb was already gone, moving with impossible speed. Crystal scales became shields. Hidden blades became weapons. The creature flowed like water, struck like lightning, protected Jia with absolute precision. Shoot it, Varketh roared. Shoot the beast. 5 pirates fired together. Energy weapons lit up the room with deadly light. But Bomb was not where they aimed. The creature moved in patterns that seemed impossible, 6 legs carrying it across walls and ceiling as easily as the floor. Every movement served 2 purposes, striking enemies and shielding Jia. A pirate's arm separated from his body. Another pirate's weapon was torn from his hands before he could fire. A third pirate turned to run and found himself facing a wall of crystal and blade. In the corridor, Taehyun struggled to his feet. Through the damaged doorway, he could see flashes of movement. Hear screams of pain and terror, but not human screams. Pirate screams. Hansol stood beside him, staring in disbelief. What is that thing? My daughter's guardian, Taehyun whispered. Varketh was bleeding from a dozen cuts. Around him, his warriors lay on the floor, wounded or unconscious. None were dead. Bomb's attacks were precise, disabling but not killing. But all were defeated. The Rixthor stood before Varketh now, fully transformed. It was twice the size it had been, covered in blade-like armor, looking exactly like what it truly was. An ancient warrior bred for a single purpose. To protect. You called it just a pet, Taehyun said from the doorway, his voice steady despite his fear. You were wrong. Varketh looked at the human, then at the creature. He had raided hundreds of ships. He had fought dozens of species. But he had never faced anything like this. The creature had defeated his entire team in less than a minute. And it had barely been trying. It was still protecting the child, not even breathing hard. What are you? Varketh asked the Rixthor. Bomb did not answer. It simply stood there. Black scales gleaming, blades extended, eyes fixed on the pirate captain. The message was clear. Leave now or die. More pirates were coming through the ship. But Captain Haiwan and her security team had rallied. The element of surprise was gone. And now the pirates knew that the defenseless colony ship had a warrior aboard. A warrior that had just destroyed their best fighters without effort. The battle turned. Security forces pushed back against the invaders. Medical Officer Bora tended to the wounded. And through it all, Bomb stood guard over Jia, not moving, not relaxing, not trusting the safety yet. Within an hour, it was over. The pirates retreated to their ship and fled. Captain Haiwan did not pursue them. The New Dawn had won, but barely. There were injuries, damage, trauma. But no one had died, especially not in the safe room, where a creature the pirates had dismissed as just a pet had proven to be something far more dangerous. As the emergency lights stopped flashing and normal lighting returned, Bomb began to shrink. The blades retracted. The scales closed. The warrior form faded, and the creature that had terrified hardened pirates became small and gentle again. Gia, who had been brave and silent throughout the battle, finally began to cry. Bomb nuzzled her face, making soft, comforting sounds. Its scales turned purple, the color of peace and protection. Taehyun entered the safe room and held his daughter tight. Over her head, he looked at Bomb. The creature met his eyes with perfect understanding. "Thank you," Taehyun whispered. "Thank you for keeping your promise." Bomb's scales brightened slightly. Then the creature curled around Gia, shielding her, warming her, protecting her as it always had and always would. The pirates had learned an important lesson that day. So had the humans. Never underestimate what looks harmless, and never ever threaten a Rixthor's chosen bond, because what sleeps as a pet can wake as a warrior. The video spread across the galaxy faster than light. Someone in the safe room had recorded everything on their personal device. The footage was shaky, filled with screams and chaos, but it showed the moment clearly. It showed Bomb transforming from gentle pet into devastating warrior. It showed the Rixthor defeating 5 armed pirates in under 60 seconds. It showed a creature that everyone had dismissed as harmless, proving to be anything but. Within days, the video reached Earth. Within a week, it reached the Qualith Empire. And when it did, everything changed. Communications officer Sung-ho brought the news to Taehyun. The New Dawn was still repairing damage from the attack, still tending to the wounded, still dealing with the trauma. But now they faced something unexpected. The entire galaxy wanted to talk to them. "Ambassador, we're receiving hundreds of requests for information," Sung-ho said. "Every major species wants to know about the Rixthor. The Qualith High Command has demanded an immediate conference." "Demanded?" Taehyun raised an eyebrow. "Their words, sir. They seem upset." Sung-ho pulled up the message. "They claim we've violated the care agreement, that we've weaponized a peaceful creature." Taehyun felt anger rise in his chest. "Weaponized? We did nothing. Bomb protected my daughter from pirates, that's all." "Try telling them that," Captain Haiwan said. She stood nearby, arms crossed. "The Qualith are scared. Their harmless pet just became the most famous warrior in known space. They look like fools." The conference was held 3 days later, transmitted across vast distances through quantum communication networks. Taehyun sat in the ship's conference room, facing screens that showed Qualith officials, human fleet commanders, and representatives from a dozen other species. Ambassador Vrex was there. His compound eyes seemed duller than before, his mandibles clicking nervously. "You have broken our trust," Vrex said without preamble. "The Rixthor was given as a pet, a symbol of peace. You have turned it into a weapon." "We turned it into nothing," Taehyun replied calmly. "Bomb acted on its own to protect a child from attackers. Should it have let my daughter die to preserve your pride?" "The Rixthor are domesticated," Vrex insisted. "They do not fight. They cannot fight. This is impossible." "And yet it happened," Admiral Na-young said. She was the human fleet commander, who had arrived days after the attack to provide support. "Perhaps you do not know your own species as well as you thought." Before Vrex could respond, another voice entered the conversation. It was old, crackling with static from an ancient communication system. "Young ones always think they know everything," the voice said. On the screen, a new figure appeared. It was Qualith, but ancient. Its exoskeleton was faded, its movements slow. "I am Thex, keeper of forgotten history. I have been listening to this argument, and I must speak truth." "Elder Thex," Vrex said, with obvious respect and fear. "This matter does not concern—" "It concerns everything," Thex interrupted. "You young fools gave away a Rixthor without understanding what you were doing. Now the old ways have returned, and you are afraid." "What old ways?" Taehyun asked. Thex's eyes focused on him through the screen. "Ambassador, your species is young. You do not know our history. But I remember. I was there 5,000 years ago when we still had warriors, when the Rixthor stood beside us in battle." "You said they were domesticated," Vrex protested weakly. "We tried to domesticate them," Thex corrected. We changed their genetics, made them smaller, gentler. We turned warriors into pets because we no longer wanted to fight. We thought we had removed the old instincts forever, but we were wrong. The old Qualith pulled up images, ancient texts that even the translators struggled with. The Rixthor were bred for one purpose, the guardian bond. They would choose a being to protect, and that choice was absolute. They would die before letting harm come to their bonded one. But the bond was not just loyalty, it was love. Deep, genuine love. Thex looked at all the screens, at all the species watching. We forgot how to love. We became efficient, practical, cold. We treated the Rixthor as tools, then as decorations. We took away their purpose, so the warrior instinct went to sleep, buried so deep we thought it was gone. What woke it? Admiral Na Young asked. The human child. Thex said simply. Show me the video again. Sung Ho played the footage. Not the battle, but the earlier parts. The moment when Jia first met Bomb on Diplomatic Station Meridian 7. The way she touched it gently, spoke to it kindly, named it with love. Do you see? Thex said. The child does not treat the Rixthor as a pet. She treats it as family, as a friend. She loves it without expecting anything in return. That is what we lost. That is what the Rixthor needed to remember what they truly are. The conference room was silent. Even Vrex had stopped clicking his mandibles. For 5,000 years, we gave Rixthor to millions of Qualith younglings, Thex continued. None of them awakened, because we taught our children to see them as possessions, as toys. But this human child, in her innocence, saw a friend, and the Rixthor remembered. Taehyun thought about Jia, how she always shared her food with Bomb, how she talked to the creature about her day, her feelings, her dreams, how she cried into Bomb's fur when she missed her mother, how she never commanded or demanded, only asked and thanked. The bond recognizes pure hearts, Thex said. Beings who can love without condition, protect without question, trust without doubt. Your daughter has such a heart, Ambassador, and Bomb saw it. What does this mean for the Qualith? Vrex asked quietly. It means we must face what we have become, Thex said sadly. We prided ourselves on being advanced, sophisticated, beyond such primitive things as emotion and attachment, but we lost something important. We lost the ability to form real bonds. That is why no Rixthor has awakened in 5,000 years. Not because they were domesticated, but because we were. Another screen activated. It showed a young Qualith holding a Rixthor similar to Bomb. Elder Thex, the young one said. I have been watching the human video. I have been thinking about my own Rixthor. I have been treating it as the humans do, with love. And today its scales turned red when danger approached. The old response. It is beginning. More screens activated, more Qualith, mostly young ones, reporting the same thing. Their Rixthor were changing, waking up, remembering. Vrex stared in shock. This is impossible. This is life, Thex corrected. This is what happens when you treat beings with genuine care. The humans have taught us a lesson we forgot long ago. Admiral Na Young looked at Taehyun with something like pride. It seems humanity has a unique gift, she said. We bond easily, love deeply, trust quickly. Other species call it weakness, but perhaps it is our greatest strength. The galaxy should know this, another voice said. It was a representative from the Talvix Consortium, a species known for cold logic. Humanity formed a warrior bond with a creature designed by another species. This is unprecedented. It means humans have abilities we do not fully understand. Dangerous abilities, someone else muttered. Or valuable ones, Thex said firmly. Ambassador Taehyun, the Qualith Empire wishes to apologize. We gave you what we thought was a simple gift. We did not know we were giving you a guardian, a warrior, a friend. Bomb belongs with your daughter now. The bond cannot be broken. I would never separate them, Taehyun said. Bomb saved Jia's life, saved dozens of lives. It is part of our family. Then perhaps, Thex said slowly, humanity would consider helping us remember what we forgot. We have hundreds of Rixthor that sleep as pets. Perhaps your people could teach them, and us, how to wake up again. Vrex looked uncomfortable, but he did not object. The vote from other Qualith officials was clear. They wanted to learn from humanity. They wanted to rediscover the bonds they had lost. After the conference ended, Tai Hyun found Jia in their quarters. She was reading a story to Bom, who listened with patient attention. When she saw her father, she smiled. "Papa, is everything okay? People keep talking about Bom." "Everything is fine, sweet one," Taehyun said, sitting beside her. "Bom is famous now. Everyone wants to know about the brave warrior who protected you." Jia looked at Bom with confusion. "But Bom is not just a warrior. Bom is my friend." "Yes," Taehyun said, stroking his daughter's hair. "That is exactly right. And that is why everything changed." Bom's scales turned gentle blue, the color of happiness and home. Outside, the galaxy was learning a new lesson about humanity. But inside these quarters, a little girl and her guardian simply enjoyed being together. That, Taehyun thought, was the real miracle. Not the fighting or the transformation, but the love that made it all possible. 6 months had passed since the pirate attack. 6 months since the galaxy learned that humanity had a special gift for forming bonds. 6 months since everything changed. The diplomatic summit on Earth was the biggest gathering of species in human history. Representatives from 40 different civilizations had come to discuss what everyone now called the Rixthor phenomenon. But more importantly, they came to understand humanity better. Taehyun stood on the balcony of the conference center watching the gardens below. Jia was there playing with Bom and 3 other Rixthor who had recently awakened. Their human companions were children too, laughing and running in the spring sunshine. The Rixthor moved around them like living shields, protective but playful, deadly but gentle. Beautiful, isn't it? Elder Thex approached slowly. The ancient Qualith had traveled to Earth personally, the first time it had left its homeworld in decades. "I never thought I would see Rixthor play again. We forgot they could. How many have awakened now?" Taehyun asked. 73, Thex said, all bonded with human companions. Mostly children, but some adults too. "Your species has a gift for seeing beings as individuals, not tools. It is humbling." "It is simply how we are," Taehyun said. "We love easily, sometimes too easily. Other species call it weakness. Those species are learning otherwise." Thex pointed to a group of diplomats watching the children. "The Talviks want to understand human emotional intelligence. The Marathi want to study human bonding psychology. Even the Korvath pirates have stopped raiding human ships. They fear what other guardians you might have." Taehyun smiled slightly. "We have no other guardians. Just Bom and the other Rixthor." "Are you certain?" Thex asked. "You bonded with a species designed by the Qualith. What happens when you meet species you know nothing about? Will they respond to your kindness too? Your capacity for genuine connection?" It was a good question, one that humanity was beginning to ask itself. Inside the conference center, Admiral Na Young was presenting Earth's proposal to the assembled species. Taehyun could see her on the screens visible through the window. "Humanity does not seek dominance," Na Young said clearly. "We do not have the strongest military or the most advanced technology. What we offer is partnership. Real partnership based on mutual respect and genuine care." A Qualith official stood. "You offer what you showed us with the Rixthor. The ability to see others as equals, as friends." "Yes," Na Young confirmed. "Earth proposes a cultural exchange program. We will send our people to learn from you, and welcome your people to learn from us. We will share what we know about building relationships, forming teams, creating bonds, and in return you will share your knowledge with us." "This is unprecedented," a Talvik's representative said. Its mechanical voice held surprise. "Normally, new species join the galactic community by proving strength or technology. You propose to join by teaching emotions. Emotions are not weakness," another voice said. It was Ambassador Vrex. He looked different now, less rigid, more thoughtful. "I have spent these 6 months reconsidering everything I believed. The Qualith Empire was strong for 5,000 years. But we were also alone. We had allies but no friends. Partners but no bonds. Humanity has shown us what we lost." Vrex pulled up an image on the screen. It showed a young Qualith child playing with a Rixthor whose scales glowed bright blue. "This is my grandchild," Vrex said quietly. 3 days ago, its Rixthor awakened. Not because of human teaching, but because my grandchild learned to love from watching human videos, from seeing how Gia treats Bomb." The conference room fell silent. "One human child changed everything," Vrex continued. "Not through power or threat, but through simple kindness. If that is weakness, then I pray my people learn to be weak again." Taehyun felt emotion tighten his throat. He had not expected this. He had simply been a father protecting his daughter, and Bomb had been a creature protecting its bonded child. They had not meant to change the galaxy, but they had. Down in the garden, Gia was showing a Qualith youngling how to play fetch with the Rixthor. "You have to throw it gently," she explained in simple words, "and then say good job when they bring it back. They like being told they're good." The Qualith youngling tried it, awkward and uncertain. Its Rixthor retrieved the ball and brought it back. "Good job," the youngling said carefully. The Rixthor's scales brightened and it made a happy purring sound. The youngling's parent, watching from nearby, made a sound like crying. But it was happy crying, Taehyun realized. The adult Qualith was seeing something it never thought possible. Its child forming a real bond, giving and receiving love freely. That evening, the summit held a formal ceremony. The Qualith Empire officially apologized for their previous dismissive attitude toward humanity. They presented Earth with a gift, 50 Rixthor, who would choose their own human companions according to the ancient tradition. "We offer these not as pets," Elder Thex said, speaking to the gathered crowd, "but as partners. As friends, as family. The Rixthor will choose who they wish to bond with. We will not influence their choice. This is how it was meant to be before we lost our way." One by one, the Rixthor entered the garden. They moved slowly, carefully, looking at the humans gathered there. Some chose children, drawn to innocent hearts. Some chose soldiers, recognizing protective spirits. Some chose teachers, scientists, artists. Each bond was different, but all were real. Taehyun watched a Rixthor approach a young woman named Bora, the medical officer from the New Dawn. The creature sat before her, looking up with intelligent eyes. Bora knelt down, tears streaming down her face. She had lost her family to illness years ago. She had been alone for so long. "Hello," she whispered to the Rixthor. "I'm Bora. Will you be my friend?" The Rixthor's scales turned soft purple, the color of new bonds and gentle promises. It placed its head in her hands, and Bora began to cry harder, but with joy instead of sadness. All around the garden, similar scenes played out. Humans and Rixthor finding each other, recognizing something in each other that needed completing. It was not ownership. It was partnership. Later that night, after the ceremony ended, Taehyun sat with Gia in their temporary quarters on Earth. Bomb lay between them, content and peaceful. "Papa, why did everyone cry today?" Gia asked. "Were they sad?" "No, sweet one," Taehyun said. "They were happy. Sometimes people cry when they feel very happy." Why were they happy? Taehyun thought about how to explain it. Because they found friends. Real friends like you and Bomb. Friends who will stay with them forever. Gia nodded, satisfied with this answer. She leaned against Bomb, who shifted position to support her better. "Bomb is the best friend," she said simply. "I'm glad the Qualith gave Bomb to me." "So am I," Taehyun said. "So am I." The summit continued for another week. Treaties were signed, agreements reached, programs established. Humanity became not just another member of the galactic community, but a teacher. Other species came to learn what humans knew naturally. How to form real relationships, how to love without conditions, how to see beings as individuals rather than categories. The Qualith Empire underwent massive cultural changes. They began teaching emotional intelligence in schools. They studied human psychology, human literature, human art, anything that showed how humans connected with each other and with other beings. But perhaps the biggest change was simpler. Qualith children started treating their Rixthor like family, and one by one across the empire the ancient warriors began to wake. A year after the summit, Taehyun received a message from Kyung-soo, the engineer who had once distrusted Bomb. He had returned to Earth after the colony mission ended. The message included a video. In the video, Kyung-soo sat in his small apartment. Beside him was a Rixthor with scales that shifted between blue and green. "Ambassador," Kyung-soo said to the camera, "I wanted to apologize. I called bomb dangerous. I said we should lock it away. I was wrong. He put his hand on the Rixthor's head. This is Hanol. She chose me 3 months ago. I did not think I deserved a friend like this, but she saw something in me worth protecting. Thank you for teaching me that what I thought was weakness was actually strength. Taehyun showed the video to Jia. She smiled. Bomb will be happy, she said. More Rixthor are finding homes. Yes, Taehyun agreed. Thanks to you. Not just me, Papa, thanks to Bomb too. Bomb showed everyone that love is strong. Out of the mouths of children, Taehyun thought, come the deepest truths. 5 years later, Jia was 11 years old. She attended the Interspecies Academy, where children from dozens of worlds learned together. Bomb went with her every day, no longer unusual. Many students had Rixthor companions now, or other bonded creatures from other worlds that had learned from the Rixthor example. The galaxy had not become perfect. There were still conflicts, still problems, still species that rejected emotional bonds, but something had shifted. Humanity's ability to connect, to bond, to love genuinely had become respected rather than mocked. And in quiet homes across human space and beyond, children played with their guardians. Warriors slept beside their bonded ones, and in every case, what had once been called just a pet was recognized for what it truly was. A friend, a protector, a family member. The Qualith had given humanity the Rixthor thinking they were harmless pets.